The Rolls Royce gleamed under the Dubai sun, its Tiffany blue paint catching the light like a jewel. Inside the orange leather interior, Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum sat frozen, his mouth slightly open in shock. Standing beside the open rear door was Marcus Webb, a black ex-soldier turned chauffeur, his uniform crisp, his posture military perfect, his eyes locked on the Sheikh with unwavering calm. What Marcus had just done would change everything. But to understand how a man who survived 3 tours in Afghanistan came to stand up to one of the wealthiest men in the Middle East, we need to go back 3 weeks. Marcus had been unemployed for 8 months. The transition from military precision to civilian chaos had been brutal. Every job interview ended the same way: polite smiles followed by rejection emails. His daughter Alicia needed surgery, $20,000 they did not have, and his wife Jennifer worked double shifts at the hospital just to keep their apartment. When the luxury driving agency called, Marcus almost hung up. They wanted someone for a difficult client, someone others had quit on after days or even hours. The pay was extraordinary, $5,000 per week. But there was a catch. The client was known for being impossible. Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum owned half the commercial real estate in 3 countries. His father had been oil royalty, and Rashid had multiplied that wealth into billions through strategic investments and ruthless business practices. He was 42, handsome in a severe way, and absolutely convinced of his superiority over everyone he encountered. Marcus took the job that afternoon. The agency director, a nervous British man named Colin, handed him a list of rules. No speaking unless spoken to, no eye contact in the rearview mirror, no opinions on routes or schedules, absolute obedience at all times. 6 drivers had quit in the past 4 months. One had been fired after suggesting a faster route. Another had made the mistake of turning on the air conditioning without being asked. Marcus folded the list and put it in his pocket. He had survived worse than a spoiled billionaire. The first day, Marcus arrived at the Sheikh's penthouse at exactly 5 in the morning. The building was a glass tower that seemed to pierce the sky, all marble lobbies and gold fixtures. Rashid emerged at 5:30, not acknowledging Marcus's greeting, sliding into the back seat like Marcus was furniture. They drove to a business meeting in silence. Marcus kept his eyes on the road, his hands steady on the wheel, his mind cataloging everything. Rashid made 12 phone calls during that first drive, all in Arabic, but Marcus understood every word. His 3 tours had included 18 months in Iraq, and he had been part of intelligence operations that required language skills. He said nothing, gave no indication, just drove. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus learned the patterns. Rashid operated on intimidation and contempt. He would change destinations without notice, expecting Marcus to know routes instantly. He would criticize driving that was too fast or too slow, often contradicting himself within minutes. He left expensive items in the car as tests, watching through building cameras to see if Marcus would steal. Marcus passed every test without seeming to try. He memorized every route in the city, anticipated traffic patterns, kept the car immaculate, and most importantly, showed no reaction to the constant disrespect. But he also noticed other things. Rashid was involved in deals that skirted legal boundaries. During those phone calls, Marcus pretended not to understand. Rashid discussed bribing government officials, manipulating stock prices through insider information, and using shell companies to hide money from international authorities. Marcus began recording the conversations, a small device hidden in his uniform pocket. He was not sure yet what he would do with the information, but his military training had taught him that intelligence was survival. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus had just picked up Rashid from a lunch meeting when his phone buzzed. It was Jennifer. Alicia had collapsed at school. They were at the hospital. The surgery could not wait any longer. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Excuse me, sir. I have a family emergency. I need to take you to your next appointment, and then I must leave." Rashid looked up from his tablet, his expression cold. "You will do no such thing. I have a dinner meeting at 8 and then a flight at midnight. You will be available." Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "Sir, my daughter is in the hospital. I need to be with my family." Rashid's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. "Your family is not my concern. Your job is to drive when I require it. If you leave, You are fired, and I will ensure you never work in this city again. I have connections with every luxury service, every high-end business. You will be blacklisted." The old Marcus, the one who had not learned control through military discipline, might have reacted with anger. But the new Marcus understood something more powerful than rage. He understood leverage. Marcus pulled the car smoothly to the curb outside Rashid's office building. He put the vehicle in park, turned off the engine, and for the first time in 2 weeks, made direct eye contact through the rearview mirror. "With all due respect, sir, I quit." Rashid's face flushed with anger. "You cannot quit. You have a contract." Marcus opened his door, walked around to the rear passenger door, and opened it. That is when he spoke the words that froze the sheikh in his seat. "I also have recordings of every conversation you have had in this car for the past 2 weeks. Discussions of bribery, insider trading, money laundering, and fraud. All in your voice. All with specific names and amounts. I have already uploaded copies to secure servers with instructions to release them to international authorities and media outlets if anything happens to me or my family." Rashid's shock was total. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus continued, his voice calm and measured. "Here is what will happen. You will transfer $50,000 to my account within the next hour. $20,000 for my daughter's surgery, and $30,000 as severance pay. You will provide a glowing reference letter to any employer I choose. You will never threaten me or my family again. In return, I will keep those recordings private unless you ever break these terms." Rashid found his voice, though it shook with fury. "You are blackmailing me. This is illegal." Marcus smiled, a cold expression that did not reach his eyes. "So is everything on those recordings. The difference is that I am asking for money to save my daughter's life. You were stealing millions to add to your billions. I wonder which crime a court would find more sympathetic." The sheikh tried one more time, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Do you know what I can do to you? I have resources you cannot imagine." Marcus leaned in slightly, his military bearing evident in every line of his body. "Sir, I have been shot at by people who actually wanted to kill me, not just ruin my career. I have lost friends in ways you could not comprehend. I have faced real threats. You are just a rich man who thinks money makes him powerful. It does not. It just makes you dependent on people like me, people you have spent your life underestimating." The silence stretched between them, thick with tension. Rashid was not accustomed to losing, but he was also not stupid. He pulled out his phone and made a call in Arabic, authorizing a transfer, $50,000. Within 10 minutes, Marcus's phone buzzed with a confirmation from his bank. Marcus stepped back from the car door. "Your next driver will be here in 20 minutes. I have already called the agency. I suggest you treat him better than you treated the others." As Marcus turned to walk away, Rashid's voice stopped him. "How long have you understood Arabic?" Marcus looked back over his shoulder. "Since my first tour in Iraq, sir. 12 years. You should be more careful about what you say in front of people you assume are not listening." He left Rashid sitting in the back of the Tiffany blue Rolls Royce, shock still written across his face. Marcus took a taxi to the hospital where Jennifer and Alicia waited. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning, and for the first time in months, Marcus could breathe. But the story did not end there. 3 days after the confrontation, while Alicia was recovering and Marcus was considering his next career move, he received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was female, professional, American. "Mr. Webb, my name is Sarah Chen. I am an investigator with the International Financial Crimes Task Force. We have been building a case against Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum for 2 years. I understand you may have information that would be valuable to our investigation." Marcus sat down slowly. "How did you find me?" "We have been monitoring the Sheikh's communications. When a $50,000 transfer was made to your account with unusual urgency, we investigated. Your military record is impressive. Your security clearance is still technically active. We would like to discuss a collaboration." What Marcus learned over the next week changed everything again. The task force had evidence of Rashid's crimes, but nothing concrete enough for prosecution. The sheikh was too careful, too protected by expensive lawyers and international loopholes. But Marcus's recordings, made by someone in the car with him, with clear audio and context, were exactly what they needed. In exchange for the recordings and testimony, the task force offered Marcus something unexpected. A job. They needed drivers, people who could blend in with luxury services, who had intelligence training, who could remain calm under pressure and gather information. The pay was substantial, the work was meaningful, and it used every skill Marcus had developed in both his military and civilian life. 6 months later, Marcus sat in a cafe across from Jennifer, watching the news on his tablet. Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum had been arrested at an airport in Switzerland. Multiple charges, multiple countries involved. The news report mentioned an anonymous source who had provided crucial evidence. Jennifer squeezed his hand. "You did the right thing." Marcus nodded, thinking about all the moments that had led to this. The years of military service, the struggle to find work, the desperation to help his daughter, the 2 weeks of silent observation, and finally, the choice to stand up instead of walking away. Alicia was healthy now, running around their new apartment, the surgery completely successful. Marcus had a career he believed in, working undercover to help build cases against corrupt businessmen who thought their wealth made them untouchable. And somewhere in Dubai, there was a Tiffany blue Rolls Royce with orange interior that probably had a new driver, someone who maybe, just maybe, was being treated with a little more respect. The most important lesson Marcus had learned was not about revenge or justice in the dramatic sense. It was about the power of patience, observation, and choosing your moments. In the military, he had learned that the best operators were not the loudest or most aggressive. They were the ones who stayed calm, gathered intelligence, and acted with precision when the moment was right. That Thursday afternoon, standing beside that car, Marcus had not acted out of anger. He had acted from a place of calm calculation, knowing exactly what he had, what he needed, and what the consequences would be. He had not destroyed Rashid out of spite. He had simply changed the terms of their interaction from master and servant to equals, negotiating a fair exchange. What made the confrontation powerful was not just the recordings or the money. It was the revelation that Marcus had been underestimated from the first moment. Rashid had assumed the quiet black driver was uneducated, desperate, and powerless. He had never considered that Marcus might be intelligent, trained, and recording everything. That assumption, that fundamental disrespect, had been Rashid's fatal mistake. In the months that followed, Marcus trained other drivers for the task force. He taught them what to look for, how to stay calm under pressure, how to blend in while staying alert. Many of them were veterans like him, struggling to find purpose after military service. The work gave them something valuable, a way to use their skills for good while earning a living wage. Jennifer sometimes asked him if he regretted the confrontation, if he wished he had handled it differently. Marcus always gave the same answer: "I regret that it was necessary. I regret living in a world where people like Rashid think they can treat others as less than human. But I do not regret standing up. I do not regret protecting my family. And I do not regret helping to bring a criminal to justice." The truth was that Marcus had been preparing for that moment his entire life without knowing it. Every difficult choice in the military, every time he had stayed calm under fire, every language lesson, every intelligence briefing, every moment of patience when he wanted to react with anger, all of it had built toward that Thursday afternoon. The case against Rashid took 18 months to fully prosecute. The evidence Marcus provided was the foundation, but the investigation expanded to reveal a network of corruption spanning multiple continents. Other wealthy businessmen were implicated, government officials were forced to resign, and millions of dollars in stolen funds were recovered and returned to the countries they had been taken from. Marcus testified in closed court sessions, his identity protected. He watched from a secure room as Rashid was sentenced to 15 years in prison and ordered to pay over $200 million in fines and restitution. The man who had once threatened to blacklist Marcus from ever working again was now the one whose future had been destroyed by his own arrogance and crimes. But what satisfied Marcus most was not the punishment. It was the change. The task force expanded its operations, hiring more undercover operatives, building more cases. Other drivers came forward with their own stories of abuse and evidence of crimes. The luxury service industry began implementing better protections for workers. It was not a revolution, but it was progress. Before we wrap this story up, I'd like to thank you for reaching this far. And if you enjoyed this story as much as I think you did, then be sure to show your support by liking and subscribing so this channel can reach more people like you. Now, back to the story. On the 2-year anniversary of that confrontation, Marcus took his family to the beach. Alicia, now 12 and completely healthy, ran along the sand with her younger brother James, who had been born a year after the surgery. Jennifer sat beside Marcus, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You changed a lot of lives," she said quietly. Marcus shook his head. "I just did what needed to be done." A lot of people were part of bringing Rashid down. Jennifer turned to look at him. "You stood up when no one else would. You saw an opportunity to make things right, and you took it. That matters." Marcus thought about all the drivers who had quit, who had walked away from Rashid's abuse without fighting back. He understood why. They had families to feed, bills to pay, and no safety net. They could not afford to risk everything on a confrontation that might destroy them. What had made Marcus different was not courage alone. It was circumstance, training, and a specific combination of skills that gave him options others did not have. The real injustice was that it should not require a former intelligence operative with active security clearance to hold wealthy criminals accountable. There should be systems in place that protected workers, that investigated abuse, that did not allow people like Rashid to operate with impunity for years. That was the work Marcus was part of now, building those systems, one case at a time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus's phone buzzed with a message from Sarah Chen. "New assignment if you are interested. Tech billionaire in Singapore. Multiple complaints from household staff." Could be another Rashid situation. Marcus looked at his family, at the life they had built, at the peace they had found. Then he looked at the message again. Someone had to do this work. Someone had to stand up for the people who could not stand up for themselves. Someone had to prove that wealth and power did not place anyone above the law or basic human decency. He typed a response. "Send me the details. I am in." Because that was who Marcus Webb was now. Not just a driver, not just a veteran, not just a father and husband. He was someone who had learned that the most powerful weapon was not a gun or a threat. It was patience, intelligence, preparation, and the courage to act when the moment arrived. The Tiffany blue Rolls Royce was just a car. The confrontation was just one conversation. But what it represented was something larger. A refusal to accept that some people deserved respect while others deserved contempt based on nothing more than wealth and position. In the end, Marcus had not just won a confrontation with a billionaire. He had reclaimed his own dignity, protected his family, and found a purpose that gave meaning to all the difficult years that had come before. And somewhere in a prison cell, Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum had finally learned what Marcus had known all along. True power does not come from money or position. It comes from character, from doing what is right even when it is hard, and from never underestimating the quiet person standing beside you, who might be seeing and understanding far more than you ever imagined.